A number circulating in Washington this week. $750 billion. Not a budget request, a signal. To the public, it's a preposterous real estate offer. But in the Pentagon, it's a valuation of survival. The math starts 950 miles from the North Pole at Pituffik Space Base. It's the only place on Earth with the radar geometry to buy America a 14-minute warning. Without it, the Golden Dome defense system is blind. But the radar isn't why the price tag is $750 billion. Beneath the ice sheet, the 1960s are starting to leak. Camp Century, a nuclear ghost city, is collapsing. Radioactive coolant, PCBs, and a broken arrow that was never fully accounted for. All of it migrating toward the coast. Ballistic missiles launched over the Arctic reached the continental United States in approximately 30 minutes. That's the geometry. Pituffik sits closer to the North Pole than any other American installation. Its radar doesn't stop missiles. It buys time. 10 to 15 additional minutes for detection, calculation, response. The margin between retaliation and blindness. No other location on Earth offers this sightline. Relocation isn't difficult, it's physically impossible. The curvature of the planet dictates the math. Greenland's position isn't strategic preference, it's geometric necessity. But the base cannot move, the ice above it can. One port, one airstrip, one annual supply window. Approximately 600 personnel survive 4 months of polar darkness on what arrives during a brief summer opening. Fuel, food, equipment, miss the window, wait 12 months. The sea lift threads through shifting ice. Timing depends on predictable freeze-thaw cycles. Climate data suggests those cycles are compressing. The reliable window is narrowing. Every year, the math gets tighter. But resupply is only the visible fragility. What's already underground is worse. The United States operates 2 heavy icebreakers. Russia operates more than 40. Sovereignty in the Arctic isn't enforced by treaties, it's enforced by presence. Whoever can move through ice controls access. Greenland sits at the choke point between Atlantic and Arctic approaches. The northern sea route is opening. The Northwest Passage is thawing. Shipping lanes that shorten Asia-Europe transit by 2 weeks. Building an icebreaker takes a decade. The gap isn't temporary. It's structural. Geography made Greenland essential. But physics made it dangerous. In the 1960s, Army 1960s carved a city into the ice sheet. 21 tunnels. A nuclear reactor, housing for 200. 30 feet below the surface, roofed with steel arches and buried by accumulating snow. The method was called cut and cover. Elegant, efficient, and temporary. Ice is not stone. It flows. Compresses. Deforms under its own weight. Within a decade of abandonment, the tunnels began collapsing. They sealed the entrance. They left everything else behind. The upgraded phased array radar at Pituffik tracks objects over 3,000 miles away. No moving parts. Thousands of electronic elements shift the beam across the polar sky. Constant scan. Unobstructed sightline. The system requires power, cooling, data infrastructure, and personnel, all sustained at the edge of human habitability. The radar sees everything above the horizon, but it sees nothing beneath the ice. Declassified documents reveal the original purpose. Project Iceworm. A plan to hide 600 nuclear missiles beneath the Greenland ice sheet. 2,500 miles of tunnels. Mobile launch rails shifting warheads constantly, undetectable from above. The project was never completed. Canceled when ice physics proved uncooperative. The tunnels that were built remained. The infrastructure was sealed and classified for decades. The missiles never arrived. The fuel, sewage, and debris did. Greenland is autonomous. Denmark holds defense and foreign policy authority. American basing rights are negotiated through Copenhagen. Greenland has limited direct voice. Denmark's military budget cannot independently secure Arctic territory. The arrangement works because no one examines it too closely. Now, a Greenlandic independence movement is gaining traction. Future agreements are uncertain. Sovereignty is layered, and every layer complicates liability. Container ships are already transiting Arctic routes seasonally. The math is simple: 10 to 15 days saved versus Suez. Greenland's position grants monitoring access to both Atlantic and Arctic approaches. Monitoring requires presence. Presence requires infrastructure. Infrastructure requires maintenance. The sightlines are invaluable, but sightlines don't pay for cleanup. The Greenland ice sheet moves 3 to 4 feet per year. Slow, constant, unstoppable. Under immense pressure, ice behaves like cold concrete. It flows. Camp Century's tunnels began deforming almost immediately after abandonment. Steel arches buckled. Corridors narrowed. The geometry that once housed soldiers is now a compressed ruin, migrating slowly inland. Anything buried in ice is not preserved. It is relocated. The tunnels are collapsing toward meltwater pathways. No one removed the diesel. No one drained the coolant. No one extracted the low-level radioactive waste from the reactor core. 200,000 liters of fuel and chemicals. PCBs. Sewage. Construction debris. The exact inventory remains uncertain. Records are incomplete. For decades, none of it mattered. Everything was frozen solid. Now meltwater is carving downward, inch by inch, season by season, toward the burial layer. Containment was never built. It was assumed. But diesel and sewage aren't the only things frozen into Greenland's history. In January 1968, a U.S. Air Force B-52 bomber crashed 7 miles from Thule Air Base. Call sign, Hobo 28. Payload, 4 thermonuclear weapons. The conventional explosives detonated on impact. The ice and the bay were contaminated with radioactive debris. The incident was classified as a broken arrow, a nuclear accident without war. Officially, the cleanup was declared complete. But declassified correspondence from the Atomic Energy Commission shows internal disagreement about what was actually recovered. Some components were confirmed destroyed. Others were listed as accounted for, indirectly. And at least one element remains unresolved in the historical record. For decades, that uncertainty didn't matter. The ice was assumed permanent. The seabed was assumed unreachable. Those assumptions no longer hold. As Arctic waters open and seabed mapping accelerates, the question isn't whether something could be found. It's who would be responsible if it is. Nuclear uncertainty does not depreciate. It compounds. Surface melt penetrates deeper and faster than 1960s models predicted. The ice sheet loses an estimated 270 billion metric tons per year. Figures vary, but the direction is consistent. Meltwater follows crevasses and moulins, vertical drainage shafts that reach bedrock. The waste doesn't need to surface, it only needs to reach outflow glaciers. The liability isn't visible yet. But the clock is running. The 1951 Defense Agreement did not specify waste liability. No clause addresses who pays when frozen infrastructure begins to move. Remediation cost estimates range from hundreds of millions to figures no one will confirm publicly. Denmark argues the waste is American. Washington notes the territory is Danish. Greenland demands a voice but lacks treaty authority. The longer negotiations stall, the more the ice redistributes the problem. The waste is moving. The negotiations are not. Walking away means losing the radar geometry. Staying means inheriting the liability. Ownership would transfer both the strategic asset and the environmental debt. Billions in defense value against unknown billions in cleanup costs. No exit that doesn't compound. No timeline that holds still. The ice keeps moving. The waste keeps migrating. The price keeps rising. And somewhere a number circulates online. Not a valuation, but a signal. A question no one wants to answer out loud. What happens when the bill comes due?